Hello there, we're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. This is your home of fearless, credible and independent journalism. Our lead stories this hour. The world pauses in celebration of women. We hear different perspectives from women across sectors as we focus on building the next generation of female leaders who are being told to dare to challenge the status quo. We hear also from the office of the First Lady and the former First Lady. Experts call for improved infrastructure and financial commitment to the energy sector as power outages rock the nation over the weekend. We hear from former Deputy Power Minister John Jinapor, who believes the recent erratic power supply is due to indebtedness of Gridco and other agencies within the power sector. Also, President Akufo-Addo delivers his first State of the Nation address in his second term tomorrow. What are we to expect? Details coming up shortly. And the Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. Remember, we're streaming live on YouTube and our other social media handles. My name is Gifty Ando-Apia. This is the Pulse. Please be my guest on the special International Women's Day edition. Welcome back. Like I said, this is a very special edition. So from all of us here, the ladies here at JoyNews, we wish you all out there a very great day as the world pauses to celebrate women. Now, dream big and create opportunities when none present itself. That's what women leaders are urging other women to desire as the world celebrates International Women's Day today. On the theme, Choose to Challenge. Women in various fields have gathered at the International Conference Center today to share knowledge, experiences, and celebrate their achievement in commemoration of the day. On the keynote address was IVN's regional lead, Northeast and West Africa, Angela Chemating-Jumo, who noted that women must make it a priority to take care of themselves, then prepare for opportunities which will make them better in the future. Hannah Odame was at the event and she joins me now in the studio to tell us more of what went on there earlier today. Hannah, happy Women's Day to you. Happy
International Women's Day.
You seem very excited.
I am. It's a day for us, you know.
Okay.
I've heard men say that why should we have to celebrate Women's Day? But
that's a debate we can have another time.
But then you just spoke about Angela. We'll get a clip very briefly.
Exactly. So Angela, take us through what went on there today.
Angela is someone who has made it through barriers to get to where she is now. And so her story, how she got there, her dream, where she is right now. She's the chief of staff of one of the MBN big top men. And she said she just dreamed it and it came to pass. Yeah. So she's saying that, yes, there are lots of barriers, there are lots of hindrances for women, but once you dream it, you can achieve it. Let's listen to Angela.
All right.
Having a dream is not just enough. You need to have the wow factor as a woman. And what is the wow factor? It's a mantra that I've lived with, and today I want to share that with you. So, you dream big, and then what happens? wow factor, W-O-W. The first W is work hard, work smart, be diligent, be persistent, relentlessly reinvent yourself. And with that, backed by your dreams, you will succeed. The O is for opportunities. You know what? Because I had internalized it, because I'd seen myself as this ordinary African girl hopping off and on IBM's private jet, guess what? When the opportunity presented itself, I took it. I went after it with everything that I have. And sometimes the opportunities may not even be there, but what do? You create those opportunities. The last letter, W, is wellness. And I was so thrilled when Theresa told me that this summit is going to look at what we choose to challenge plus wellness. Wellness is very important. The pandemic has taken its toll on many of us. It's challenged us mentally, physically, and it's important that we take our wellness very, very seriously. And I love what Adam said earlier on. She interviewed the panelists on Saturday, and they said something like, you can't pour from an empty vase. Okay, so we deserve to be well as women. So today on International Women's Day, I challenge you, women, to dream big. Because if you don't dream big, and even if you are given a seat at the table, guess what? You will make excuses why you don't belong there. But if you've internalized it, if you've dreamt it, guess what? You will walk in with confidence and take that seat. Remember, a girl with a dream becomes a woman with a vision. And a woman with a vision, backed by the wow factor, is simply unstoppable.
Well, it's sometimes you could say easier said than done, but it is possible. And so over there, Hannah, there was today a lot of positive energy as I'm getting from you here in the studio.
It was so much positive energy because, Gifty, it wasn't about getting equality. The talk over the years has been equality. It wasn't about that. It was about you and I, the women themselves. How are we going to challenge ourselves? So we didn't even have women only who have shattered the glass ceilings. No, we had women who are now beginning, women who have not reached anywhere, women who have reached somewhere. So we had all those people there to share their knowledge, their experiences, to let us know that it is difficult. As a fact you have to face. We don't have to always see the glory of those who have made it. It's difficult, but yes, this is how I was able to overcome every hurdle, and this is how I got there. Can you also join me in this journey? So we had those kinds of people there, and it was so relaxing. You could understand how everybody was trying to communicate. It wasn't about rubbing shoulders with any other woman. It wasn't about rubbing shoulders with any other man. It was about you, the woman, yourself. And so we had a lot of the women around. We have those from Wilma, Africa. We had those dietitians telling us that we have to be well to be able to get that stage. Let's hear again from more of the women who were at the program today.
The point is that we need to get to a point where we realize that there's only so much we can do. And at a point, we need to learn to let go. Because if you want that career or that job, if you want that home, that child, you even need that career and the financial ability to be able to support home anyways. So for me, one of the things that helps me is to position myself that there's only so much I can do, right? So whilst I'm present, I'll do as much as I can. And when I have to let go, I have learned to let go.
But sometimes that self-imposed, I am the one who is supposed to handle everything. You won't ask. I struggled with that guilt. But then I had to teach myself and be kind to myself and sometimes ask. Even when I'm there thinking, oh, a good woman shouldn't ask her husband to do this, I would ask for the help and still sit with my guilt. But at least I got the help I needed.
You should look at your situation and see, can I manage between house and you can also sometimes get the support from your work and speak openly to your boss and ask for maybe part-time or any arrangement, even if you have to decide to break for a year or so, because the child only grows, this first year does not repeat. That's the time although they need you all the time in their life, but I mean, that's critical for your own well-being as well.
Hannah, I'm particularly excited about focusing on your own well-being.
Exactly.
Because it's one of the things that we often take for granted, always playing the multi-purpose, multi-talented, beings. But this was a key issue here. But there were other people that you spoke to, including some men. We'll get to that. But before that.
So after this presentation, I spoke to some of the women who were there to find out how this has impacted them, because we just don't go sit down and then we wait for another 8th of March to celebrate. There should be an impact. There should be a mind change, a shift in our thinking. And so that's why you realize that the focus was choose to challenge. What are you challenging? From now to the next celebration, what am I challenging? What is Gifty challenging? What are the other females around challenging? Okay. There is something. I choose to challenge poverty, inequality. There's so much other people want to challenge. So I spoke to some of those who were gathered there and asked them, what are you going to challenge from now? And what impact has this particular conference made on you?
Okay.
We are going to spread our tentacles, not just focusing on how to rub shoulders with the men, but how to impact the immediate women or the young ones that are coming after us. I think this year's shift, it's amazing.
For what I picked up today, quite a lot of them, I know them, I was doing them, but also hearing it from another party also did help. And most importantly, I think what is going to stay with me is staying well and making sure that I remember that I also do exist. As much as I give of myself to everybody, I also have to learn to also take care of me.
What are you doing differently that would suggest to you that you were not staying well?
I work long hours, I do a lot of things, and by the time I'm done, I fall off. And I think that one of the significant examples I was given that I realized that was really me was where by the time I'm done eating in the evening, then I just snooze off. I think I have to try and make sure I have my lunch at the right time and have my breakfast at the right time and still be able to continue to give off my time and myself to all the people who do need me.
Well, as we said, we've been talking about how people are celebrating or taking a pause to celebrate women across the world. I spoke to Hannah Odami, who was at the International Press Conference Center where the Women's Forum was held earlier today. Well, Hannah didn't only speak to women, she spoke to men as well. Now we'll be having a conversation with some women in key leadership positions. We'll have a conversation about how to nurture the next generation of female leaders. But first, listen to some men who have been interacting with us on International Women's Day.
From day one when a girl is born, we need to give them that opportunity just as we give to boys. Women and men can do equally same. So I believe that the issue hasn't got to do with what they have to do. It is how we start with them. One thing we have also not recognized is the fact that we try to push women when we have not prepared them enough into leadership, into major roles. We don't give them the opportunity from the beginning, and that is where we have to look at as a nation.
I think they've already done enough to be there. They've already put in the effort. what I think needs to be done now is not to be complacent on the efforts and all the good work that they've put in place. They should keep fighting, keep challenging. Like the team for this year's Women's Day is choose to challenge. They should challenge themselves, challenge everybody else. Because you cannot care about human rights without caring about women's rights.
So those are some of the men talking to Hannah Odame there. So are we well prepared, and are we preparing very well the next generation of women to take over? And after all the encouraging words, how do we actually get females who have achieved to hold the hands of other females who are willing to challenge the status quo throughout the day on multimedia platforms? Today, we have kept the discussion going in the hope that at least one person will find that encouraging corner from which to launch into the future. You've heard from entrepreneurs, female players in the financial and IT sectors. This afternoon, I present to you a female police officer, a female pro-vice chancellor, and a female geotechnical engineer. My guest, pro-vice chancellor at the University of Ghana, Professor Nanaba Ampia Amfo. Prof, welcome. Good afternoon.
Very much.
I am having a difficulty with your sound. Maybe we can fix that. But I also have on Zoom Dr. Celestina Alote. She is a geotechnical engineer, vice president and head of sustainable development with Goldfields, West Africa. And I also have, well, Doc, thank you very much. Dr. Celestina, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I think you are muted, but I hear you say thank you for having me. You are muted, if you can unmute for me.
Well,
right.
I am unmuted here. Can you hear me?
I do hear you now. Thank you very much for joining in this conversation. And I also have Superintendent Sheila Kese Bakman, who is the police, the Director of Police Public Affairs, who will also be joining us. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know that the press conference has taken a lot of our time, but we'll try and do justice with just what we have. Essentially, we want to have a conversation to look at the journey and how it has been so far, and look at what succession looks like from your perspective. Prof, maybe I should start with you. Being in academia, walk us through the journey briefly, if you can. How easy or challenging has it been?
At the top of your career, wherever you are, female.
Well, Prof, I'm having a very bad feedback from your end, Prof. Let me start. Let me go on with while we sort out, Prof. Let me also let you know that Sheila Abeye Bachman, Superintendent, has joined us via Zoom, Police Public Affairs Director. Thank you very much, Sheila.
Thank you, Gipsy.
Okay, it's great to have you. So let me start with you, Dr. Celestine. I mean, it's been a long journey. I can imagine. As I asked Prof earlier, walk us through the journey. How has it been for you? Assuming, well, I don't even need to assume. For your area, it sounds pretty technical to me, and it looks as though there are very few women in that space. Tell us about your journey.
Well, thank you. Well, the journey has been interesting. I think I've been lucky to be doing something I'm passionate about. I started at UST in 1992, and I think our year was the year where the university decided to take a lot of women. So in civil engineering, there were 8 of us. My male colleagues were quite supportive. And I mean, aside, one of the challenges would be maybe having to climb sometimes, while we were studying. When I remember doing an internship for construction, and I had to climb up to the roof. It took some motivation for me to be able to do that. But aside from that, it has been a very interesting journey. I love what I do. I see myself contributing, to helping to solve some of the challenges in Ghana, particularly with mining, helping to promote good practice in mining, in the design of some of the geotechnical structures. I would say one of my biggest challenges being in mining has been the work-life balance, as I'm sure a lot of women have had those challenges. My work involves traveling frequently, and it was always difficult to leave my children behind and my husband. So, you know, I mean, I would say that I've made use of the phone. WhatsApp has been a savior. I found myself doing homework, you know, you take pictures, you look at the homework, you check it, and then you send it back. What I've also done, I've always tried to stay in touch with the children. So every night I've tried to call back home. And then when I am back, I just try to spend a lot of time at home, just so that we can have that bond. So okay. I don't know whether that is your question. Yeah,
we'll get into the family bits. I mean, hopefully we have some time. We'll get into the family bits a bit more. But I want to imagine, I'm imagining you climbing, what did you have to climb again, a building?
I had to climb a ladder to go up to the roof to inspect it. And, you know, in Ghana, well, I didn't grow up climbing. I don't stay in Ghana. So it was a first, and I was on a construction site. I was this tiny lady, you know, with all the men, you know. In the first place, the men, you know, they are not very accepting. Not the educated ones, you know. On the construction site, you have different categories of people. So all eyes are on you to see whether you will fail or how you will do, basically. So if you give into fear, you know, that becomes an anecdote they will take home, you know. So I had to overcome that fear and bravely climb that ladder with the senior engineer behind me and go up there and do the work. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
It basically involves conquering a lot of fears.
Yeah. Well, as we go along, maybe we can celebrate some of the men who have supported you in this journey. But let me bring in Superintendent here. You are a police officer. You're a police officer who is always speaking for the rest of the police officers. And I can imagine it hasn't been easy. Talking about someone climbing, you know, a ladder. I'm wondering, what is it that you have to do? I mean, how difficult is it being a female in an area which is predominantly male?
Okay, Gifty, happy day to all the women, and happy day to you, and a happy birthday to you too.
Thank you.
So when Doctor was talking about climbing, I was here laughing because I was remembering one of the things you have to do as a police officer, no matter the level of entry, is to undergo basic training. And at basic training, it's a requirement for you to learn how to handle and assemble the AK-47 and how to shoot up to a certain level before you are deemed to have passed, before you move on to the pistol. Climbing and going under objects and all those things are part of the training. So when she was talking about climbing, I was just here laughing and smiling and remembering what I went through as part of the training. And it's not just for the entry level. In the course of being in command position, you still have to go for training where you have to do some of these things. So it has been an exciting journey. I have been exposed to certain things I would have not have been exposed to, but for joining the police service. And I have loved it so far.
I'm sure you have loved it. But she talks about the fact that men in the area are not very accepting of women when they get there because they tend to have this territorial attitude. They feel like this is our space. How bad is that within the service?
With the police, so you would notice that we keep improving in terms of the percentage of women the police service allows or recruits yearly. So as at now, we are just about between 27 and 30% of the police population, which means that they keep allowing more space for women. And even in terms of leadership and command position, we keep appointing women to positions. So, for instance, the Director of Public Affairs, I am the first woman, although there have been several other women who have occupied several other positions, including even the Acting Inspector General of Police in the person of Mrs. Robertson, who is retired, and there are several other female commissioners. So within the police itself, there are no limitations based on gender. But you would notice that there are some gender limitations within the society in which we work that sometimes make it difficult to put people in certain command positions in the police service or to assign people to certain duties.
Right. So you talk about being able to handle the AK-47 as a part of the training, then the pistol, and then your shooting range, etc. As a woman, when you went to try it, did you feel as though you had to, like Dr. Celestina was saying, that you had to do something extra to be able to hit the mark? Did you feel intimidated even by the presence of men? Because men are, you know, they have the muscle built in a certain way. I think that makes them strong, a bit stronger. But did you feel that difference?
I would say no. One thing they do, or we do in the police service, is to let you know the history of the service and at what point women were added to the service and the roles they played and the role we play now. So that alone is an encouraging and motivation factor for you as a woman. And the instructors make sure they make you feel that, yes, this time we want women to be part of the thing. So they pay attention to you. Okay. And mentoring and coaching is something that may not be formally structured in the police service, but once you join, you get all the senior officers paying attention to you as a woman, including even senior officers who are retired, like Commissioner of Police retired Mrs. Jane Donko. They will find you, they will locate you, and they will talk to you about the fact that you need to do this, to do this, to do this, to continue to give opportunity to women in the police service. So no, they don't make you feel, like I said, the institution itself gives a lot of room for women and they pay attention to you for you to excel in the areas where the men have dominated for a long time, which is basically the entire policing and operational activities.
Well, I'm getting a feeling as though there are no gender challenges at all within the police service, but that might be a bit complex, is it?
But they are not limitations set by the institution.
Okay.
There are limitations you would find in the society. So, for instance, you are planning operations to take men to Operation Conquest Fest, for instance, or Operation Motherland, which we are now having in some regions. Okay. And the assembly will give you a place where you look at it and you wonder whether you can send a female officer along because of perhaps the facilities there in terms of hygiene, in terms of bathing, in terms of giving the person the privacy to be separated from the men to dress up and all. But the service itself would have loved to add some women to it. Then again, you have societies where women don't necessarily lead. So you may have a woman who is competent, but you are unable to put the person there. So within the service itself, it looks as though women are privileged because you are assigned duties that are more easier than men, I should say.
I see.
But it is the social contract assigned to the female thing that makes policing difficult for women. Otherwise, within the service itself, it isn't.
When I come back to you, Superintendent, I want us to address two things. How have you managed, Dr. Celestina talked about one of the things that has been difficult for her has been work-life balance and how she has dealt with it. I want you to talk to us about that when I come back to you. For example, some people have said that a police officer, a female police officer, is not your ordinary woman to love. I don't know what that meant, but I heard someone say that. I want you to, when I come, I want you to maybe share your experience with me. But let me try Prof once again. Prof, are you there?
Hey, Gifty, I'm here.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me now?
I do hear you. I do hear you. So, Prof, when I was doing my master's, I had to deal with a lot of writing, just a little bit of that, and I dealt with it by, you know, having a little bit of Chinese by my side. I take a spoonful and I write, and I managed it. Being in academia is a lot of writing and a lot of mental work. Take us through your journey briefly.
Yes, I was going to say that I didn't have to climb a ladder. I didn't have to pull a trigger, but it's a lot of brain work, as you have said. Yeah. Being in academia is not an 8 to 5 job, it's a 24/7 job because you really have to work around the clock. During the day, you will teach, you will attend to students. If you are in administration like me, you do a lot of administrative work. And then it's after 5 that your research work starts. And indeed, if you're going to progress in academia, the bulk of it depends on your research output, which you really don't have much time for during the day when you are teaching and attending to students. So it hasn't been exactly an easy journey, but I would say that trying to be at the top of every career is tough, and it's tougher even when you are a woman. It's tougher because, women traditionally and within the society, we've been associated with care duties. We are the ones who care for the babies, who care for the toddlers, the teenagers, the adults, the older people. Wherever there is care work, you see women. And so when women step out of these areas and then enter spaces, other professional spaces which do not directly involve that kind of care, consciously and unconsciously, sometimes people wonder what they are doing in those spaces. And you need to put in the extra effort, do twice or thrice or even 4 times what your male colleague will do in order for you to get the needed recognition.
And so I was asking again, how have you managed to become a pro vice chancellor, rising through the system? I mean, I know people who have said at the University of Ghana, for example, the usual requirement elsewhere to become, say, a professor, it's not the same. It's just different, even at the University of Ghana. I mean, how has the journey been at that point?
Yes, I mean, that's correct. It's not for nothing that we call ourselves the premier university. The requirements here are really quite stringent. For me, my professional journey started after my marriage and my family situation. So right after my first degree, I got married and I had my son before I started my master's degree when my son was 4 months old. And so I've had to go on this journey together with my family. I've learned to work with my family within my space. My children will tell you that, mommy can really cut us off. We'll be in the same space, but if she's doing her work, she's behind her computer, she can really concentrate. And I mean, it will seem like she's the only person in that room. So I managed to find the spaces within which I can work effectively. And fortunately for me, I don't have to be away from my family, my children, before I can work effectively. In fact, I have learned to carry them along. I carried them along to conferences. For 4 years, I was the president of the Linguistics Association of Ghana. We had conferences in different places within the country, and I would go along with them. They would play around while I also went along with my meetings and my presentations. So I think that's how I've been able to manage. I somehow managed to work with them within my space. And then I've also had support. I had support from different people at different times, from my parents at some point when the children were younger. They would come in to support when they could during vacations. The children would go and spend some time with them. And then we could also have some time to ourselves and for our work. I've had effective house helps too over the period, very effective ones. And so, I mean, somehow as a professional woman, you need help. And you need to find the help, whether it is paid or unpaid help, whether it is a family member or in a friend or whatever, you somehow need to find help. And these are some of the strategies by which I have coped so far.
I see. Very interesting. Talking about help, I don't even know if carrying along your children, in some of these things is is entirely healthy? I don't know, but let me bring in Dr. Celestine.
I think it depends. It depends on you. You have to find out how you are able to work effectively and within which space you are able to work effectively. We are all different, so you need to find out what works for you.
What works for you? Let me bring in Dr. Celestina again. Doc, you talked about how you're able to, how men are not very accepting, and how you have felt that you had to prove yourself over and over again, even in the same space, even with the same sort of qualification. I see there are a lot of young people, and we are encouraging a lot of young people to get into STEM, which essentially might take them to your area. What mistakes do you think you have made from which you want people, young people, for example, to learn from? And how are you, with where you are now, nurturing younger people, let's say, beneath you, or those who don't even work with you but want to be where you are, into that position?
Well, I think I must correct it. I must say what I was talking about was, actually my colleagues are very supportive.
Okay.
Of course, there's the general prejudices growing up. In terms of nurturing or succession planning, I must say, I'm sure my staff will tell you I'm very demanding. I'm harder on the women. I don't accept excuses.
Okay.
I don't like it when women act, feminine. We go because we are in engineering. I don't like it when we are working in the field and you see women giggling and being silly. I'm not very accepting of that because I believe you must present a professional face, irrespective of who you are. That we must work around our challenges, just like the Provice said. And I'm very encouraging. I mean, you will talk to the ones I've nurtured, very encouraging. I share my experiences with them. What I would say is you face your fears, you talk to yourself. Sometimes I have to speak to myself to calm down, to be confident, to sit in that room, to make a contribution. So I encourage them. I share my experience. I share what I've learned along the way. And I think the biggest lesson I have learned is to make a decision what you want out of everything, every venture. So if you're going into a meeting, you need to decide what are you taking into that meeting? What are you coming out of that meeting with? So once you make that decision, you go into that meeting prepared, and you are able to confidently make a contribution so that your voice will be heard and you'll be noted. And basically that's how I try to mentor other women coming after me. And another thing I tell them is everything is possible. Honestly, that's my attitude. As an engineer, there's a solution to every problem. There's nothing that doesn't have a solution. Okay. You only have to put your mind to it.
Okay. I want to use this part of the conversation to talk about love and relationships and family, and how it plays a role in this success. I mean, sometimes people have said, especially when you take broadcasters like myself, there are all kinds of aspersions, that go around. By talking about love, I want to bring in Superintendent Abaye Bachman, because I want you and Dr. Celestine to help me wish Prof a happy marriage anniversary as well. and
happy anniversary, Prof.
Okay, so I want you to just take a look.
Very much, ladies.
Yeah, I can see you're watching the video. So this is just a picture we just pull up. Maybe it might surprise you a bit. So take a look at this.
Oh my God.
and so this is when after this, 4 months after this, you started was it when you started your master's?
So this is right after my first degree. So this was in 1997, March. Okay. And I started my master's degree in August of 1998.
Interesting. So hang on, just listen to, I have somebody on the line who wants to say hi. Hello.
Hello.
Happy marriage anniversary.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so apparently behind every successful woman Or in front of every successful woman, whichever, in front, beside, behind, there is a man.
He's by my side.
He's by your side. Okay, oh, so you know who is on the phone?
Yes, sure, I do now.
Okay. Well, we'll just take a few messages for your wife on your anniversary today. There are two great women as well to help you celebrate her.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay, we're just taking your anniversary message for your wife on air.
Oh, okay. So what I'm saying is that, Mom, let the fire of the love between us keep on burning, and may the Lord make it increase over and over again.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Prof, that's your husband there. Wishing you a very good one. Do you have something else to say to him?
Yes, I just want to thank him for all these years of support. It's been 29 years of friendship and 24 years of marriage. And he's been there for me throughout, for the children, for all of us. So I want to say I love him and he's still the one for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, well, before we lose our focus, let me just let him go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling in, sir. Thank you so much. So I said I was going to talk about love because I had a question that I didn't get. I didn't allow Superintendent Abeye Bachman to answer. Some people say marrying someone, a woman within the security services, you know, you have to really psych up. How difficult is it for people? You know, I know for people, for broadcasters like us, sometimes they say we're spoiled for choice. I don't know how true it is. It's sometimes a bit difficult to find love, you know. I don't know. What's your story, if you'd like to share?
Okay, 50. I think that the people who say that, they may not be wrong. What it is that you will need to sacrifice a lot to be able to be in a relationship with a policewoman. The reason is that every officer works 24 hours, we should say. Yes, you have days that you are on duty, but you must always be ready to be called to attend to a duty, regardless of the rank that you are, especially when you are in a command position. So yes, I may not be the patrol officer, but you are on call 24/7. Perhaps that won't change until we have the police population ratio that meets the UN standard. And that requires that your family and your husband, your partner, and everybody else would have to sacrifice. Because what you have done is to put yourself out there to sacrifice for the country. So you wouldn't like, although you want to achieve some kind of a balance, you still wouldn't like family to be some kind of stumbling block or interference in your way. So yes, maybe those who say it, I want to agree with them. You really need to be tough to be able to perhaps handle a female officer.
I see. Is it the same story in the engineering field, Dr. Celestina? Is it difficult for female engineers to find people who, you know what I mean?
Well, I can't say. No, I don't think so. I think you have to ask my husband. But I don't think, I think the challenges we face are the same faced by women, you know, who work everywhere. You work 8 to 5, you know, you have to be in traffic. So just like Nana Abbas said, you need a good support system, you know. Yeah. So maybe the husband has to get used to having some house helps, making meals sometimes, you know. There are times I'm away from home for 2 weeks. So it has to be somebody else caring for the children and making his meals. Okay. But I think those are general challenges faced by every woman.
Right. Yeah. Well, on this day, well, we've been told to, you know, challenge something, you know, challenge the status quo. So I'm going to take a message from each of you on how people, you know, I mean, I'm younger than all of you, like people like myself, people younger than me, people in school. What can they challenge from your perspective going forward into the future? What message do you leave for them? Let me start with academia. I want to start with Prof.
Thank you, Gifty. Well, on this day, I choose to challenge the call for gender equity And I challenge every young woman and girl to be the very best that she can. Today, my message is the 3 Ds. The first D is to discover yourself. I say that don't strive to be like that man. Don't even strive to be like the woman next door. Strive to be yourself, because you can only be the best you. You can't be like me. And then the second D is to determine. You should determine to nurture your gifts through training, through mentorship, through apprenticeship. And because whatever gift you have, you need to nurture that, and you need to get it refined. You see, gold is much finer when it has passed through fire. And finally, deliver your nurtured expertise to the world. Step out of your comfort zone and show the world the steel that you're made of. And I think that we need to support each other. Together, we can make it and make life better for the generation of women after us.
Together we can make it and make life better. Thank you so much. Let me come to you, Superintendent Abaye Bachman. We deal with you a lot, and I know that we always come to you, we're looking for information, etc. That wouldn't be easy. But there are young officers who are looking up to somebody like you and saying, I wish. But there are things that they need to understand, and there are things they need to learn. What message do you leave with them? What should they choose to challenge, or what do you choose to challenge?
I choose to challenge the assertion that women are their own enemies. And I am challenging everybody to drop that phrase. I don't think that phrase is encouraging enough, because there are women who mentor women to become great. And that has been a negativity, so we should drop it. Now, I want to challenge every woman, be it young or old, to learn at every opportunity. There is so much we can learn. We can never be satisfied with the opportunities that come our way. So at every given opportunity, we should take advantage and learn. And we will marvel at what the new things we have learned and how they can contribute to roles that we play at our various places and even at home, and even contribute to bringing up the children. I want to challenge everybody to laugh. Love is so easy to do, and whatever you do, no matter how difficult it is, try to take a breather, smile, laugh. That's it.
All right, let me come to you, Dr. Celestina. What's yours?
So I was going to say that Superintendent took exactly what I was going to say, that I choose to challenge the perception that women are our own enemies, that women are bad bosses, women don't like other women. And so for this year, the message I say is women should challenge that perception and that notion. We should celebrate other women. When we get opportunity, we should tell other women how good they are, how pretty they look. We should help to build their confidence. We should elevate other women. When you get opportunity in a meeting to talk about another woman, bring out the best about her. Elevate her. Train somebody to come and step behind you. So be it your boss, be it your subordinate, let's celebrate each other, let's elevate each other, and the sky will be the limit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been a great pleasure having you all. We do have a message from the First Lady, which we'll take to wrap it all up. But let me say a big thanks to you, Professor Nanaba Apiamfo, who is the Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Ghana. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Celestina Alote Goldfields, geotechnical engineer, Goldfields, West Africa. Thank you so much for your time. Superintendent Sheila Kese Abaye Bachman as well, Director Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. Great conversation. I'll take a lot away from here. Let's now take you to a message from the First Lady's office.
An equal world is an enabled world. A gender-equal world can be healthier, wealthier, and more harmonious. I am responsible for my own thoughts and actions. My actions, conversations, behaviors, and mindsets can have an impact on our larger society. I therefore stand for gender equal boardrooms, gender equal governments, gender equal workplaces, and gender equal communities. I stand for more gender equality in health and wealth. I will take actions and decisions to make it happen. As I strike the choose to challenge pose,
I challenge. I challenge. I challenge. I challenge. I challenge.
I choose to challenge.
It is my commitment to a gender equal world.
I challenge. I challenge. I challenge. I challenge. I challenge.
I choose to challenge.
I will actively choose to challenge stereotypes, fight bias, broaden perceptions, and celebrate women's achievements.
I choose to challenge.
Together, we will create a gender equal world.
I choose to challenge.
Together, we can make change happen.
So that message is from the First Lady's office. Lead strategist at the office, Sheila Sechi Opong, is joining us right now via Zoom for a very quick one. Sheila, thank you so much for your patience. Good afternoon. Hello, Sheila. It looks like you're muted.
Good afternoon, Giti. I just unmuted myself.
Yes, Sheila, I owe you so much for making you wait for this long, but thank you so much. Let's start with a message from the First Lady. What message is he sharing? I see this video that you've put together that seems to target Ghanaian women in all sectors, including persons with disabilities. What is the First Lady telling Ghanaians on this day?
The First Lady traditionally always has an event to mark International Women's Day, but this year, because of the COVID protocols and regulations in place, she wasn't able to host any event. Nonetheless, she has a message for Ghanaians, and as you can see in the video, it's made up of Ghanaian women from different sectors of the Ghanaian society who are all challenging a particular status quo, a particular gender stereotype or bias. And her message for this year for Ghanaian women is that she's standing as First Lady and challenging every single gender bias, gender stereotyping, anything at all that is holding women back and not allowing women to be fully where they can be and who they can be. So that is what the First Lady is challenging today. And IWD itself is saying that a challenge world is an alert world. So we hope that once we as women, we stand, and I was listening to your panelists earlier on, and they were all challenging something. So once we all stand together as women to challenge these issues, the world will become more alert to the needs of women, and the necessary space that is required will be created.
And Sheila, what are you challenging as we wrap up?
And then women would be able to take their place.
Sheila, I asked, what are you challenging? I think I lost you. What are you challenging as we wrap up?
Well, I personally am challenging gender bias and any stereotype that is allowing or enabling people to sort of not include women. So any kind of gender bias or gender stereotyping that is allowing women to be put in the background, not allowing them to get into leadership positions or play leadership roles or be part of decision making. Those are the gender biases that I am personally challenging.
I'd like to say a very big thanks to you. Once again, thank you so much for your patience. Sheila, we kept you waiting on Zoom for a while. Thank you so much, and thanks for the First Lady's office for that message. Well, the former Sheila Sechi Opong is lead strategist at the First Lady's office. Former First Lady also Lodina also posted something in which she also celebrates women. We'll bring you more of that in our subsequent bulletins, including what to expect from the State of the Nation address by President Akufo-Addo and the erratic power situation that you experienced at your home over the weekend. We'll take you back to Pejiase Lodge, where there's a cabinet meeting that has just ended. The government is addressing us on what has been discussed.
In terms of budget for this program, are you aware of how much as a country we are going to be spending?
Thank you. And then there was a third hand here.
Yes, Honorable, my name is Atamensa from Ghana News Agency. As you rightly said in your presentation, that COVID-19 recovery program hinged on strengthening the country's macroeconomic situation and fiscal regime. And before we can achieve this, it all depends on the finances of the nation. Recently, the traditional media and the social media was awash with reports of International Court of Arbitration awarding a cost of $134 million against the government of Ghana over cancellation of GCPG power purchase agreement. There was also accumulated 30 million interest that the government of Ghana is supposed to pay. How do government take this issue or this development when it is about to take off? Thank you.
Thank you. So perhaps I'll start with that third question. The new Attorney General who started work has been asked to get a full update of some of these reports and share same with central government. First to determine the validity of some of these matters and then government's next line of action. But even before then, you are right in understanding that the country's financial position or revenue position or borrowing position is in a difficult place because we've had to stretch ourselves very much to protect lives and livelihoods as a result of the COVID-19 response program. So while dealing with these specific matters of these reports of judgment debts and advising government on same and the next steps, the bottom line really is that our persons in charge of our finances will have to walk a fine line in mobilizing resources. And so resource mobilization becomes one of the major conversations we'll have to have. Mobilizing resources to enable us deal with the specific COVID challenge we have, and then even in terms of investing in the sectors of the economy that we have to invest in to stimulate a quick return to higher economic activity. There was a second question, I think, from Kujajiman. What are the focal points of this post-COVID economic recovery conversation and about how much will it cost? I'll leave the how much to the President and the Minister responsible for Parliamentary Affairs when they deliver the actual speeches. But I think you can already begin to understand that if macro stability has been shaken because of the need to stretch our resources to respond to COVID, and if the fiscal anchor, which was the deficit that we were trying to bring down to 5%, you recall from 2017, government spoke a lot about the importance of having a strong fiscal anchor, bringing us down to about 5%, even past the Fiscal Responsibility Act, but had to suspend it. And if we are all now watching, and it's becoming clear from the Bank of Ghana numbers that are coming in, that our debt to GDP ratio, our deficit situation is gotten worse because of the COVID program, then you can bet that these two will become some of the key parts of the post-COVID economic recovery program. And as I've been mentioning, there's also the need to invest in flagship programs as well as sectors of the economy that will bring about a quick recovery in terms of growth and jobs. How much it costs, what are the details? The Minister for Parliamentary Affairs and the Leader of Government Business will outline that, I think, on Friday when he delivers the budget in full. Then there was the first question about the State of the Nation Address and budget. That was in Chi. And Okrese, you will be an Ebenya Kwenya Ako Parliament. Sanse say MP Scrampo, you will be an to me etnase. Sanse at Titin Temkakra. And the Parliament, in Shishaye, Ebekreseni, Ombe to me, managing numbers, no, any guests and Komobe Havu. Na, any panon conco broso, but Obe be here some Bell Honsono, Ebenya baby, Obewo. Na to me, Jumana Koso Fefe. She says to TV, ne, Abe Fontaine Tainti. When you acquire them more crampoa, Saving your case beko tent kesi any munakra when yakwan with them who are mijidi say ade I bet me a near oh baby I was it. We'll take another round of questions on this. There's one here. Are there any other? Two. So let me take these two, and if there are none, we'll move on. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, Honorable Minister. My name is Anapoku from Daily Searchlight. Recently, there's been a reportage in the media that Ghana's Sorry. Hello? Do you hear me? Honorable Minister, good afternoon. My name is Anapoku from Daily Searchlight. Recently, there's a reportage in the media circles and elsewhere that Ghana's total debt has hit 74% threshold. Is it true? And they are saying that because of that, already we are in a HIPIC zone. I don't know how true it is. And that it is going to ask it to tie the hands of government for further borrowing. And talking of COVID and the economic situations, what magic wand is the government going to brandish at it to tackle this intractable problem? Because all the economic fronts, especially except I think Greek, all other sectors are seeing some downturn. What magic wand are we going to brandish or show to solve this very difficult economic situation? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Me pacho from Daniel Eduda kon Peace FM. Me pacho e be se me bisa say post COVID-19 recovery program no. Ghana for phantom to some mo boss say yeah the tariffs be over na say taxes be bomb betua near that recovery na say e den na ban Thank you.
Me da say mami mfia say ho say post COVID recovery program no yembo aboso mu say ebia yenyele betua bibi kakra nsa na yetumi aye no ana mami fa first question no krampo no mfia say nya no wotwi mu na me fa odi nkan me wi am the English version no crisis say 2020 senior yema ejuma ye ni nipa ni ade brase no ye economy no sectors ni bebre ekọ ahokyerem nti ejuma ho so mbeye de obi oye ejuma wo mnisika obenya na nka ejuma ko no kra nya sika wetua ma ban na ban so nya sika ni na akọ fom na osa ban ko bobesia dodo odi be shem na watumi de bia ma yensuo bia ma nyam kanea ye to PPs ye to edro panie ne nkeka ho ne ade o mo yare ye mo ma yare hwe ne ade enti ama yesika sem no sebe ho akyere ne kakra eno na me nua ba ko bisa se ye say ye debt to GDP ratio atrabe 70 something percent no kra akonanim actual figure no de se na me kan no ye kan budget no if you are penny for the latest figures by if you are no pano about the trouble enti onyemina meko but eno mpo ntrese HIPIC the NHS we a highly indebted poor country yenye poor country inti nyade a HIPIC asembebem but eno krese yesika sem no eho atre ne kakra enti eho be hia se yebe mobilize ska yebe peska na se sika no yedi bi afiase atete eka ya bo no so se sika no yedi bi afiase wurawura sectors of the economy akọ ahokyerem na ono matumi epeje omu ebi so wakora nye sika keke non-fiscal measures yebe kan otwi mu a akwankyere aban de bema a enye sikasem but ebema saa ejumaku no omho aharewom no ma ye ejuma akọ anim enti se na me kan specifics ne de mpenifo de ba betu edwa be fiada ba osi nyina ifia se ye adwen ye se baby ayedu no eho be hia se yebe pempeso na ya hwehwe resources na yetumi because yentumi mobesia saa mfenko yanim nti de beye a yebenye ska akra e de akọ yanim yebe nko ebe fa so aye no. Just to quickly state that in English, it is true that our debt to GDP ratio as a result of the COVID response program has gone beyond our desirable numbers because, as you are aware, major parts of the economy were projecting about 6% growth. We had to come down to about 0.9% because of the interventions that slowed down the economy. When the economy slows down and the revenues are not coming, government revenues are also not where you may want them to be. Maybe GRA may be their target, but the various other parts of government revenue may not be where you want them to be. At the same time, you're having to spend a lot more money on the COVID response program. So the deficit position is not where you want it to be as well. It doesn't mean you are HIPIC, because HIPIC is for poor countries. We are not a poor country. So yes, we have challenges, but those challenges are not of a HIPIC nature. And you can't continuously just borrow your way out of your problems. So it will be important to look at the resource mobilization conversation and see how we can mobilize some resources or be more efficient in some of the current resource handles that we have, so that we can get back on the economic track and also invest in the sectors of the economy, like you were asking, who generate jobs and incomes very quickly and get us back on track. The specific details will be outlined by the majority leader when he speaks on Friday on behalf of the president. Just to mention, the budget is the president's budget. It's not the finance minister's budget. If you check the forward, it's the president's budget delivered by usually the finance minister. And as I'm sure you are aware, the minister designate for finance, because of medical reasons, was not able to undergo his vetting and his swearing in. And so the president has asked the leader of government business and the majority leader to deliver his budget on his behalf in Parliament on Friday. So I'll take a final batch of questions and then we'll go to COVID. One, are there any other takers? Could you give you the final word then?
Honorable, this is a point-blank question. In our calls to internally generate revenue and all that, are Ghanaians going to pay more taxes, or are we going to widen their tax net?
Are there any other takers? Or Kojo has the final word. Chief, are you asking a question? Well, Kojo, thank you. My understanding is that it's a mix of measures that are currently on the table, and the details will be outlined on Friday. But I think the important thing that we need to start having a conversation about is that if you look at the current limits that we have, it is important to look at the best ways of mobilizing some more revenue to tackle the challenges that we have. But the president is also mindful not to burden the population that has already had its own difficulties because of the COVID response program. And I'm sure the final measures that you'll hear announced on Friday will be a fine line between raising more revenue but not burdening the population.
Well, as part of the options, are taxes part? You said a lot of options. Do we have a new tax regime going to see Ghanaians pay more? Is it part of the options?
Yeah, as I've mentioned, it's a mix of measures, but the details will be outlined later. So, colleagues, I'm going to say thank you, and then I want to invite Dr. Patrick Umabwaje. We've been on a vaccination program since Tuesday. Tomorrow will be 1 week. How many people have we vaccinated? What are the sort of reports we are getting on the so-called adverse programs? Adverse effects. You recall before the program, there were all of these stories about some people will lose one eye and some will lose one leg. What has exactly happened? Also, if you can tell us, the people that we intended to vaccinate, are they the people who are vaccinating, or other people are the ones who are taking up the vaccine? So we're in your hands, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Colleagues and friends from the Ghana Health Service, friends of the media, I want to use this opportunity to also wish our women all the best, today being the International Women's Day. As the Minister mentioned, I will go through a bit of the overview of the current situation broadly on COVID, how the situation in our schools, at the airports, and most importantly, our status of the vaccination. So I will start with a brief and give full details of the vaccination, and then get back to giving you details of our current status as far as the COVID is concerned. As a general overview, there's been a gradual improvement in the general situation of COVID-19 in Ghana. The active cases have declined from 8,000 to less than 5,000 in the last 4 weeks, and it continues to decline. Our daily reported cases have declined from 800 cases a day to 400 cases a day and sometimes below in the past 4 weeks. Our daily admissions, which is very important as a marker of how severe the situation is, has dropped from the average of about 270 people on admission daily. Not those who are admitted, but that is, when you look at the best states, we have average about 270 people in Accra alone to about 150 currently, which is also a marked improvement. And most importantly, as at yesterday, 8 p.m., more than 200,000 persons have had their first dose of COVID-19 vaccination. So, please let's go to slide 20 so that I'll go back straight on to the vaccination. If you can move to slide 20. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, we started our vaccination program on the 2nd of March using the AstraZeneca vaccine. As of 7th March, 8 p.m. last night, a total of over 202,252 persons have been vaccinated. This is the one that has been electronically entered, and I'll give you some updates on that. Greater Accra alone has vaccinated about 128,088, but they have about 58,000 people they have vaccinated yet to be entered. Because you are reporting from the electronic platform, that's what it is. So both regions, Ashanti, will have about a third of the numbers to be entered. Friday, 5th March, saw the highest number of persons vaccinated in the day. That's about 46,780. And the proportion of persons vaccinated by sex is 50-50. So the numbers are just at par, 50% women and 50% men. So if you go more into details, for Ashanti, has vaccinated 69,325, 37,000 plus are females and 31,000 males. So in Ashanti region, the highest proportion is with the women, females. For Central region, we have vaccinated, because there are doing only 2 districts there, 4,639 have been vaccinated, 2,036 are females, and 2,603 are males. In Greater Accra, 128,000 vaccinees have been vaccinated, with 61,000 being females and 66,000 being males. So like I said, about a third of this number are still being entered because of the I would say the enthusiasm and with which Ghanaians wanted to get vaccinated, and we needed to slow down, so not everything was entered. We used the paper data, some electronic, and as they synchronize the data, we provide you with additional data. So one can confidently say that we are doing almost 300,000 people have been entered by the time we'll sync all the data and enter all the unentered data. So if you look at the days, first day was about 14,000 were vaccinated on it. On Tuesday, they moved to 42,000 people. On Friday, we have 46,000 plus, as was said earlier. And then Saturday, we had 39,000. And even on Sunday, we had 26,000 that had been vaccinated and entered. If you look at the numbers by district, I think it's a very, very crowded slide, and so, but broadly, it talks to you about the number vaccinated by region, by district. That's all the 43 districts we are currently doing, and you can see that every district is actively vaccinating. And in some parts of Ashanti region, the vaccines were dropped by drone from the Mampong site to be dropped for them to be able to quickly have a rapid assessment. Now, if you look at the number vaccinated, again by district, you can see it appearing there in absolute numbers. The first one was more about male, female, but this is in the absolute numbers, and you can see that Kumasi has got vaccinated about 19,802, whilst Accra Metro has vaccinated 17,019. But remember, we are doing about 20-something districts in Greater Accra compared to Ashanti region. If you look at the next slide, it tells you about the number vaccinated against the projected number to be vaccinated. And on the average, we are doing about 50% coverage so far. We are hoping that by the end of the week, we would have probably covered all the numbers that are there. The next pie chart shows the proportion of all those vaccinated. Whilst Greater Accra accounts for 64%, Greater Ashanti accounts for 34%, with Central accounting for 2%. Now, so who has been vaccinated? We had a segmentation criteria. We were focusing on health workers, adults over 60 and beyond, those who have comorbidity, hypertension, diabetes, those who are sick and so they are more vulnerable. We had the security people, we had a few essential services that were being done. But you can see that the largest number vaccinated so far are the over 60s, which are currently stands about 51,000 plus, followed by health workers of 47,000. And then we have the persons with known and underlying condition being the third with about 31,000. So by and large, you can see that the core criteria has been followed, and they are the top three who have been vaccinated. We also have the essential service providers whose work is very essential that have been exempted. We've had the media. I think the media has had a fair share, a higher share of what was allocated to them. But that is because of the categorization. It could be a media person who has the comorbidity. And so there's a possibility that they may have been misaligned and put under media. But we've had about 2,000 media across the country have been done. Those who are on special assignment outside the country have also been done. About 2,000 of them have been vaccinated. Judicial, executive have all been vaccinated across the country. So, in short, the next chart just shows that the 50-50, I'm sure when we enter the data, I believe that it will probably be about the same. So how have been the main source of information? We also, as part of our learning, we find out from people who come to vaccinate, where did you get the information from? So, and the largest number has come from television, followed by radio, and then health workers are the third, and then we have others. Some social media accounts for about 12,000 and 97, and so for that I'm a bit happy because that's where we have all the misinformation coming from. But we have television and radio leading the chart. So what is the outlook for our vaccination? We are hoping and we believe that this is the beginning of the end of the pandemic once the vaccination is in. And it's happening, showed in other parts of the world where they've started the vaccination, where they are seeing a rapid decline in their cases. There's a downward trend in Ghana. KIA continues to show more. The vaccination campaign will continue to further reduce the cases. Okay. So let's go back to our core status now as far as COVID is concerned. If you go to slide 5, we have so far recorded about 86,737 cases. We tested about 930,000 people across the country with about 29,973 per million population tests done, with a cumulative positivity of 9.3. We use cumulative positivity because that's a broad average, but at any particular time, depending on the severity, we may have a higher positivity than we have, especially between January and February. We have so far discharged about 81,000 out of them. We have recorded, unfortunately, 656 deaths with a case fatality rate of 0.76%. That is still high, But looking at the global average of 2%, that still means that I would say management have been good, or we've been also, Ghanaians have been spared a lot of the havoc that other countries have had. Currently, our total active cases is about 4,752 cases. Greater Accra still remains the epicenter, accounting for a significant number of it. Currently, all 16 regions and 252 districts have ever reported a case, which means that in all this, there are still about 8 districts that have not seen a case since March last year when the pandemic started. As of the 6th of March, the total on admission is about 175, 77. We have critical cases of 25, severe 66, and 86 of them are moderate cases. And this is depicted in the next chart that shows a gradual decline, but slow but steady decline in the number of admissions, the number who are critically ill, and of course the number who are severely affected. The next chart, the usual chart that tells us all the districts that have had cases against the active cases. And you can see currently every region has an active case. The epic curve remains, the second curve, after you have seen the last one, has continued to show a decline. And so we hope that it will continue. And if you look at the next slide, which gives us the moving average, you can see that also pointing downwards, and we hope that will continue doing that. But that is so because of the things you are doing. This is not to make people complacent. We are down because you are wearing a mask. A relatively higher number are wearing masks. And we hope that if you continue with the introduction of vaccine, you should see a much steeper reduction than we are having. The airport, so you can see that the test conducted in Ghana continues to go up. And so as the numbers go up, we do more tests. And that's how it's just showing there. And then you can also see that the active cases probably hit a peak that we have never reached before, but it continues to show a decline. And we hope that it will continue that way. At the Kotoka International Airport, we have so far recorded 1,260 cases. Majority of them are non-Ghanaians. Males account for 62% against 37% female. And we have done about 185,000 tests with a cumulative positivity of 0.68%. So it's slightly lower than the national average. You can see that over the years, we peaked. The highest number of positivity at the airport was in January, and we continue to decline in February and then March. To looking at where we are, we hope that the number will also remain low. Now let's talk about our schools. Since school reopened in the middle of January, a total of 281 schools have recorded cases of COVID-19 among students and pupils. We have had a cumulative case of 1,709 cases. The active cases as at 7th of March is 381, which means that a significant number has recovered, and we hope that this also shows that looking at the total number of over 6,000 schools and the number that has been affected, that the schools have done well, and we hope that people will continue maintaining the protocols to keep the number down. Last week we had a few hikes in Volta region, but there were a couple of schools, there were a few schools, and so there was more of an outbreak, and that's not as risky as when you have sporadic spread across many schools. The Northeast is the only region that has not recorded any case in their schools. 4 regions, Ahafo, Bono, Northeast, and Upper West, currently have no cases among the students, which means that those who had positive cases have all recovered. And so if you look at the next chart that shows the active cases, you notice that Central region has 85, Eastern 44, Greater Accra has 47, Malta, like I said last week, we had some research there that recorded about 134 cases, Western 32, Western North 6, bringing the total to 381. Okay, so that's it for the update. In terms of the outlook, I'll just go over the outlook again, that we have seen a downward trend. We have seen KIA continues to go down. Need to maintain the main safety protocols even when you are vaccinated. It's very, very important that you do that, because you develop immunity after 2 weeks, and subsequently until you get your second dose, you still have, it's not 100%, so we want everybody to continue after applying this, the social protocols, social distancing, hand washing, among others. We are going to work on pursuing additional vaccines. We are hoping that between now and probably in May, we are expecting about 2 more million AstraZeneca vaccines from the COVAX facility. There are bilateral arrangements that are bringing in additional. Currently, we have received another 100,000 AstraZeneca vaccines, and some of them will go to cover all health workers in the country to ensure that they're also safe and then they're able to render services. We are acquiring additional cold chain equipment for the ultra-negative vaccines that will come in, and then we want to continue to sustain the public education to adhere severe safety protocols and vaccine uptake. Finally, we are currently going to adapt a locally developed app which will allow us to be able to do scheduling of, you can do a pre-registration before you go and vaccinate. You can do appointment system for you to go and vaccinate, to know where you're going to vaccinate. It will generate your COVID passport for you, so we know all those who are waiting, and the database will be in Ghana. That will allow us, whatever the world decides upon, we have enough database locally to be able to respond appropriately and learn from how it is, including checking those who have had positive, whether they've had vaccination or not. So, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. This is the update.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Awaje. I just want to reiterate a number of things you've mentioned, and then we'll quickly take the questions. So currently, after about a week, or at the end of the first week, let me say, at the end of the first week, we have vaccinated about 300,000 people here in Ghana. Out of the initial target of about 570,000, we have vaccinated about 300,000 people, and that's quite significant. In fact, if you look at it that way, then it's a little over 50%. If you look at the 570,000 as a target, it's a little over 50%. If you look at the full 600,000, then that's about half of it. We're doing this in 43 districts, and the distribution mechanism has included the use of drones to deliver vaccines to some parts of the country. And I think that's very significant. You recall when we started making investment in the drone infrastructure, there was a lot of criticism about why it didn't make sense, it wasn't a good idea. But today, right before our very eyes, we are seeing the benefit of some of this infrastructure that was put in place. We're expecting about 2 million extra doses between now and the end of May. We're expecting about 2 million extra doses that are coming in. Also, a decision has been made, and I think this is something that colleagues will be pleased if you highlight. A decision has been made to make special allocation for all health workers across the country. All health workers across the country. To make special allocation out of the about 100,000 extra we have received, to make special allocation for all health workers across the country. So despite the fact that the vaccination is currently going on in 43 districts, we're about to roll out a sub-program to vaccinate all health workers across the country out of the about 100,000 extra that we have received. And additionally, we're investing in purchasing cold chain equipment that will allow us to get some of the other vaccines, the ones that require -20 degrees, -70 degrees storage. And we're also rolling out a technology platform that allows for appointments and scheduling for persons who qualify and need to take their vaccines. And this is locally developed technology platform. These are highlights I just wanted to reiterate. So, colleagues, good time to take questions, and then we will wrap up. 1, 2. Is there a third beyond these first two? 3, 4. So let's take 1, 2, 3, 4 for the first round, and then we'll continue. Let's start with you.
Yeah, Doc, thank you very much. My name is Clefe Kufu from Ghanaian Times. Per the presentation, is it right for me to assume that we have received a total of about 750 doses? That's the 600 initially.
750,000.
750. That is plus the 50,000 from the Indian government. And we know for the AstraZeneca, each person is supposed to receive a double jab. So, and with the rate at which we are going, the figures look quite impressive. Are we sure those who, there are about 300,000 who have taken their first jab, there will be enough vaccines for them to go for the second jab, and then also ensure a continuous rollout of the program in terms of the vaccines available?
Okay, thank you. There was a second question here. Is that GNA? Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Ataminsa from Ghana News Agency. Yes, we have heard that there's compensation package for people who experience adverse effects after taking the dose. How do people assess that compensation? Because we have heard people have experienced paralyzed arms after taking the dose. Some have experienced dizziness, malaria, flu, and other things. How do people who have experienced such adverse effects assess compensation or support?
Yes. TV3? Yes, go ahead. It's the same question. Okay, there's one behind you. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Musa Lansa with GH1 TV. One thing I'm worried about is medical waste. How are we going to handle the waste that is coming from the vaccination, medical waste? How are we going to handle that?
How are we handling the medical waste associated with the vaccination? All right, so just to reiterate these questions, is it correct that we've received about 700,000? And do we have enough that will be in stock for those who are due for the second shot by the time their second shot is due? There's a question about adverse effects and compensation. Maybe you have to reiterate, have we recorded adverse effects? If we have, how many? And is it true that every adverse effect, you get compensation for it? You may want to speak to that. And then how are we handling the medical waste? These are the first three questions. Colleagues, I'll come back for another round.
I'll start and my colleagues will add. In terms of the numbers, we have scheduled, the AstraZeneca, the next dose is 8 to 12 weeks. And based on our schedules, both bilateral and the COVAX facility coming, that gives us enough time to make reserves for those who are due for that. So all that have been taken care of in the rollout plan. So that one is there. There are other vaccines where the first dose and the second dose are different. And so when you have them, you need to keep the second dose separate because they are the first and the second dose are not the same. So that one is actually quite ready. In terms of adverse effects, I'll add, but Dr. Chanu will add. We so far, as of 2 days ago, recorded about 129 adverse effects. And adverse effects, we count all. When I took mine, the following day, I had a few weaknesses, still an adverse effect. But we had people who had the largest number of complaints was headaches. Some had some mild fever. Some had weaknesses. Of course, the site of the injection was also part. Dr. Chanu will add more to that. And then we also have the medical waste that you can also waste.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think the issue of adverse events and compensation, we need to clarify it more. I believe people read on the Gavi website about COVAX and compensation for adverse event. It's not every adverse event that would be compensated if you look at the document that was posted by Gavi. What the document is saying is that it is helping governments of those 92 countries that signed on to the COVAX facility. when there's a very rare adverse event. Before a vaccine is passed, it goes through several stages. Key amongst them are what we call the key phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies in human beings. Normally, those are very limited numbers of people who receive the vaccine and after which it is passed for use. Now, when it is used in the general population, you are giving it to millions of people. And it is not just for COVID, for all vaccines. You give them to millions of people in the general population after they have been passed for use. So what happens is that normally there may be some very rare adverse event which may not be discovered in the clinical trial, so to speak. So if you have, say, 100,000 people in the third phase or phase 3, and you expect you have a very rare adverse event which will happen in 1 in a million. Because your sample size, that's the number of people you used for the clinical trials, is even far, far, far less than the numbers within which you would expect the very rare adverse event. You may, on occasion, find this in the general population. And it's normally related to allergies. And, people may have some hidden allergy that nobody would really discover during the clinical trial. They are the ones that COVAX was talking about. So it's not just the dizziness and the fever or the hot body or the headache that people complain about. Those are very expected. It's the unexpected ones. Once you have given the vaccine to a large number of people, you may have it, say, 1 in 3 million or 1 in 6 million. Those are the ones that they're talking about. The medical waste, yes. Traditionally, we incinerate all our wastes. Fortunately, this time, the JOSPRO, the Zoom Lion is helping us with waste management, and we are very happy with that. But we have structures in place. For almost all facilities, we have incinerators where we send our waste for incineration. So we've taken care of that as well. Over.
Thank you. So just a quick bit of math. 129 over 300,000 is about 0.043% in terms of, it's not even up to 0.1%. And they are minor, headache and fever and a few things. So just to put it in perspective. Colleagues, let's take a final round. 1, 2, is that the Finder newspaper? So I'll start with Finder, I'll go back to TV3, and then I'll come and end with you. Those will be the final ones. Very well. So Finder, let me start with you, then I'll go to TV3 and I'll come and end with you.
Okay. What's the target date for the completion of the rollout of the 600,000 doses we have got?
Okay, so target date for the completion of the 600,000 vaccines that we intend to give out. TV3?
Yes, and my name is Martin Asiedudati, TV3. My question is tied to that. If we are targeting 570,000 for the 600,000 doses that came in earlier, and with this data we have given, if everything remains constant, when are we likely to hit the target of the 750,000 Ghanaians or people who we are expecting to vaccinate? Secondly, can you confirm, I heard we are expecting 2 million...
Martin, if you can just take that second part. When are we likely to hit the 700 and what?
50,000 people we are targeted for the first phase of the dose, the vaccination.
Okay, that's, if you expand it to the 750,000, what are the timelines?
Okay, and then I think I heard that we're expecting 2 million extra doses by end of May. Is it May?
Yeah.
Okay. And are we going to use the same strategy of rolling out? Because if we had health workers, people with underlying conditions, people above 60, the same strategy of people who we are targeted for the first set. With what is expected in May, are we looking at a different rollout plan? Since most of them would have been served hopefully by then. Thank you.
So I'll give that question to DG and to Dr. Chianu. And the first question from Finder, I think was about a 600,000. So we'll do, okay. Yes, sir, you take the final.
Yeah, Honorable,
Dr. Patrick Abwaji, some people are saying that if you refuse to take the inoculation, then in future, you may not be allowed to enter certain public places and some installations. And even travel outside the country, you can be blocked. Is that the case? And if that's the case, what are you going to do? Because some people are just not prepared to take the vaccine. And then secondly, the government intends to bring in about 20 million doses of the vaccine. Can you give us the timelines? Is it 1 to 3 years, 5 years time, or whatever? And again, I think I heard Dr. Nsiasari saying that they are exploring other venues for the vaccines, instead of the two places, India and Russia. Honorable Minister, is that the case? Thank you very much.
Let me deal with what comes to government, and then I'll let the doctors handle this. Is Ghana interested in exploring the possibility of other vaccines? Yes, Ghana is interested in exploring the possible use of other vaccines. The Food and Drugs Authority has already announced that they are doing the necessary due diligence on other vaccines. Remember, the president has committed that no vaccine will be used in Ghana that is not approved by the FDA. So the FDA is the first point, and they have publicly mentioned that they are looking to, or they are looking into, or doing the assessment of other vaccines. And I said when they do approve or certify other vaccines, they'll inform their colleagues at the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health so that they can do the necessary procurement for it to be added to the portfolio of vaccines that we have currently. There's another question you asked. Do we have any sanctions for persons who are not taking the vaccine?
Oh, no, I was saying that people are saying that those who refuse to take the vaccine, or the inoculation for that matter, in future you cannot enter certain public places, and even when you are traveling outside,
yes,
it can be used against you. Is that the case? And again, I asked about the timeline of the 20 million doses.
I'll let them answer that one, but I'm dealing with the sanctions or possible sanctions for not taking the vaccine. That possibly you can't go to this place, or you can't travel here, or you can't do. As at now, there are no sanctions that have been rolled out. We are encouraging strongly that people should take the vaccines. And we are pleased that we are observing that the initial vaccine hesitancy appears to be toning down a bit. And we congratulate you, our colleagues in the media, as you are helping us. We congratulate our colleagues from NCC, ISD. As we are getting the message out, we are noticing that hesitancy is gradually coming down, and a lot more people are volunteering or are stepping up to it. So we have not had need, as at now, to introduce any sanctions. Should it become necessary at some point that we consider what has been done in, I think, places like Israel or other places, where they will say, if you haven't taken the vaccine, you can't attend a public program. If you haven't taken the vaccine, I think in Dubai, you have to do a PCR test at your own cost every week or something. Should it become necessary that we get there, we would advise accordingly. But for now, we are happy at the level of encouragement and volunteering with which people are stepping up and taking it. Dr. Baji, I'll leave the others to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I think one thing I want to put out there is that we have a vaccination period from now to October. We don't have a period that we are going to finish the 600, we'll finish the 700. If tomorrow more vaccines are in, we will continue. So the vaccination period is from now till October, as the President said, and that's how we are going to do it. So we will continue vaccinating all throughout the country until everybody is vaccinated. So we don't have, like you say, we have 600, now we have had 100,000 have come in, and so that's how so we don't have any fixed period of going to do this and stop and go. We're going to have continuous vaccination. It will be, if you look at the segmentation, there are 4 groups. The first group is what we are doing, tackling about essential services, those who call mobility. You're going to have the next group of essential services, other people from other groups, teachers, etc. will come in. And then there's a third group of, the third group that is also the general population who may not have any comorbidity, who may not fall under any of these categories. And then the final group is when the fourth group, and when we have vaccines that are suitable for children and pregnant women, that will be the fourth group. So it's going to follow the same segmentation. Consequences. I don't think, Honorable Minister, it doesn't have to come from Ghana. You can't enter my office if you are not wearing a mask. You can't come to my house if you are not wearing a mask. when you get there, you have to wash your hand before you enter, isn't it? And so, as for those, there are also consequences. And so, if someone, it may be that, oh, you have not vaccinated, if you don't, you can't come to my house. And so, I believe that things like that can happen. The market queen can decide all those women who are not being vaccinated can come and sell, can't put the rest of us at risk. And so, I think it's important that we all do the civic duty of protecting ourselves and others. Thank you very much. I hand over to, I think Dr. Sako has a few words to say.
Yeah, I think it's just an addition to the possible travel sanctions if you don't vaccinate. I think it's coming up. It's not even about Ghana. If Israel decides that if you don't have the vaccine, you don't come to my country, Ghana has no control. And so it depends on and it's coming up. It's coming up, as the Honorable Minister said. So you remember in some of our discussions, we mentioned that in no time this will come, and we need to take advantage. Otherwise, eventually, you probably purchase the vaccine at a very high cost. Once it is given to you free, let's avail ourselves for them.
Dr. Siruba.
Yes, so thank you very much. So I think that we are into about a week of starting the vaccination, and we are somehow happy with the response. And we think that the way things are going is going to minimize the vaccine hesitancy. And I think, as has been said by DG, we are not just being rigid about an endpoint. The idea is getting the 20 million Ghanaians vaccinated. I think let's not confuse 20 million Ghanaians with 20 million doses. So what we are saying is that 20 million Ghanaians, it could be a single dose or a double dose vaccine. And ultimately, maybe by the end of October, we have gotten that number. But you know, availability of vaccines is a concern global. So the government is trying to make sure the Ghanaians are vaccinated. We want to encourage all Ghanaians to go for the vaccine. Let's not be negative about it. Let's go for it, because the more Ghanaians are protected, the better for us. Thank you.
Dr. Patrick Kuma Boaje, Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bekwin, Dr. Chianu, we want to thank you that you joined us for the second part of our brief. Colleagues from the various media houses, we also want to say a very big thank you for those of you who've carried us live, and for those of you who will be reporting tomorrow. We say a big thank you that you've joined us here at Pediase Lodge for this afternoon's brief. It's a holiday, but you know this is our work. No holiday for all of us. So thank you so much. Tomorrow we'll see you at 1 p.m. at Parliament House for the President's State of the Nation's address. Thank you.
You're welcome back to the show. We sent you to the Pediase Lodge, where you had the government press briefing on COVID-19 and what has become of a cabinet meeting that they had. They told us about things to expect in the coming week, the State of the Nation address, and also the post-COVID recovery plan. Also a lot about COVID-19 and how many people have been vaccinated. At least we're told about 300,000 people have been vaccinated so far. Coming next week, we're told that there will be the use of a local app to help schedule appointments, to create a COVID vaccination passport, etc. Also, 2 million more expected, and 100,000 extra received that will be reserved for health workers as well. Government also looking to purchase a cold chain infrastructure for more of the COVID vaccines. I've run out of time. There is more news at myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Amdopia. Have a good evening.